Past the cellular structure is the atomic structure of your electrons and protons moving around in a very specific choreographed dance. That is Wakan Skan. You are a part of Wakan Skan.
You two show up and people kind of go, they look alike. They're like twins or something. I want to talk about twin flames. Are you twin flames?
Stepping into paranormal and supernatural experiences. The first time I had a paranormal experience, I could have died.
What is love? What is it? And is it something worth having? Is this just another delusion of humanity?
Funny enough, we all got into the lift together. Her two assistants, and myself. I looked at Anna, I said, "Are you Anna Forrest?" And she said, "Sometimes." I thought, smart ass. And then they said, "Who are you?" And I said, "You'll find out." One of the biggest things that we have come across when you get together is jealousy. So all Anna's previous people and friends and everything had an automatic dislike for me.
Authenticity in spirituality can be gauged by our conduct in everyday life, says my guest. My guests today are quite the power couple in the world of yoga. To learn from them means to dive into a transformational treasure chest. Anna Forrest has been transforming people's lives for over 46 years with her powerful system of yoga called Forrest Yoga. Anna crafted Forrest Yoga while working through healing from her own life's traumas, abuse, helplessness around addictions, chronic injuries and illnesses. Anna's system of yoga is a healing, strengthening and spiritually connecting blend of Eastern wisdom and profound ceremony of the Native American and Aboriginal heritage. And that's where her husband and business partner comes into it. He brings his long history of shamanism, the arts, music and healing to Forrest Yoga. Jose Calarco is also the director of the legendary Australian indigenous company called Descendants Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Dance. Descendants won the UNESCO United Nations competition as the world's best indigenous live show. Jose creates and teaches ceremonies, tells creation stories from the traditions of the first peoples of Australia and other shamanic traditions and weaves these into the Forrest Yoga practice. As well as being a pioneering yoga teacher, Anna is a mystic, visionary, philanthropist and author of Fierce Medicine. She's the quintessential medicine woman. In this conversation, I'm looking forward to finding out all I can about how yoga and the ancient tradition of ceremony are a powerful medium for healing, overcoming addictions, and ultimately lead us to our wholesome self. So, welcome Anna and Jose, and I would love for you to begin by giving the Self-Discovery Show listeners and viewers an introduction to yourself, even though I will be giving an introduction to you of my own. I would love to know. Let's begin with Jose.
Okay, well.
Who are you is the question.
All right. Now that is a very complex question. I am a shaman. I am a musician. I am a yoga teacher. I am a vegan teacher. I am a dancer. I am a philosopher. I am a cook. I am a husband to Anna Forrest. I am a father of two beautiful children. And there's probably much more, but we only have 28 minutes. So over to Miss Forrest.
And you're a musician, you're a composer.
It just goes on. Actually, people think you're a liar when they see your resume, but I've been doing this all my life, traveling the world as a musician, director, producer, shaman, healer, and you can just Google me. That might be an easier
You're a
way.
seeker of life, I believe. You're a seeker of life.
I'm a lover of life.
Lover of life.
Yes.
You don't need to seek what you already got.
It's true.
I think of myself as a medicine woman, and that my bag of tools include trauma therapy, include ceremony, include Forrest Yoga, and Jose and I are co-creators of Forrest Yoga. I started it before we met, and yet it has shapeshifted into something so completely different and rich that we are now equal co-creators in it. And that is our offering that we give to the world. My spirit pledge is to do my part in mending the rainbow hoop of the people. And it's through all of these different gifts and tools that we work with that we do that. So we want to really help people heal, connect to who they actually are, and learn how to connect to their own spirit, and then use the connection to their own spirit to dictate how they live their life, instead of having their addictions and their fears dictating how they live their life.
Talk about connection to spirit. In your book, Fierce Medicine, you talk about the Wakan Skan. Tell us about that.
That's a Lakota word, and it means that which moves in all things, or a more literal translation is the great sacred that moves in all things. So when whoever's listening to this, if you start to daze out at this point, because it's like, oh, we're going into woo-woo, let's pull it into science for a moment. If you go deep inside of your own body, what you'll get down to past the cellular structure is the atomic structure of your electrons and protons moving around in a very specific choreographed dance. That is Wakan Skan. You are a part of Wakan Skan. Jose talks about seeing the dancing dots as your visionary skills increase. Like you look anywhere and you begin to see the dancing dots, because that is what matter is made up of. It's energy mattering. That is Wakan Skan, that which moves the electrons and protons, that which moves in all things.
And let's just mention that every culture has a Wakan Skan. The Aboriginal people call it Bayami, and Bayami is that which moves and dances in all things.
Mm.
Every cell, every microbe.
Done with that thought?
The microbe.
Yeah.
Oh no! Don't get me on microbes.
Yes, I love.
Don't get me on microbes.
Let's go to the microbiome, but not just yet.
Not just yet.
Not just yet.
Not today.
Maybe today. When I started exploring ceremony, I just couldn't embrace the common traditions of God. It just stank of lies to me. I just couldn't go there. And then when I was working in the ceremonies in the Lakota traditions and other native traditions, and I was introduced to Wakan Skan, it's like, that rings true. That I can embrace and revere and choose to be in communion with.
Yeah. So it wasn't so much God that was the problem, it was the dogma of humans that we're talking about here, not wanting to offend anyone with religious beliefs, but the dogma, that's what Anna's talking about, not the actual spirit.
No.
Even more specifically, the ways that people's spiritual desires and cravings were manipulated in order to control them, that is repulsive to me.
Yeah.
The spiritual cravings,
Yeah.
I think, is something to work with and something that can lead to great beauty, but it also leads to being entrapped.
Yeah.
And so in that is also a massive teaching in having to earn your own freedom from those who wish to control you for various reasons.
Mm.
And learning to earn our own freedom is part of this whole life journey.
Yeah.
Spiritual craving, Anna, is an interesting phrase. In particular, I want to talk to you too about you two show up and people kind of go, they look alike. But they look alike. But they're like twins or something.
Yeah, well, they're like twin flames.
And you are indeed, I would say, I want to talk about twin flames. Are you twin flames? And what are twin flames? And what is the spiritual craving that got you together?
Well, like we spoke earlier, that you have to set yourself up before you can meet your twin flame.
Mm.
There's many types of relationships. There's soulmates, soul twins, work relations, business relations, acquaintances. There's so many relationships we go through. But the ultimate discovery, besides self-discovery, is the twin flame. Now, before I could meet my twin flame, I had a whole bunch of shit to clear. I had a nasty divorce to go through, which cost me nearly everything I'd ever earned. But I knew at the other side of this, and often my Egyptian clairvoyant would say, don't worry, Jose, Just write out the check and make a clean cut with your partner, and your twin flame will show up. And I just thought, twin flame, I haven't heard that since Shirley MacLaine in 1987 out on a limb. And
she was talking, and she found something of herself through another teacher of mine, Chris Griscom. I don't know if you know Chris Griscom.
Yes.
She has the Light Institute, and then, she does phenomenal work, but she worked a lot with Shirley MacLaine.
Yeah. Shirley MacLaine was one of my teachers. I remember when I read Out on a Limb, it was the stepping stone for my spiritual awakening, which went from word knowledge to actualization, to actually stepping into paranormal and supernatural experiences. And like I was saying, at first I was terrified. The first time I had a paranormal experience, I could have died. That's how frightening it was. But I chose to live. I chose to become the warrior.
What was it?
Sorry?
What was the experience?
Well, when you've only experienced physical things before and you actually experience a paranormal thing, it is totally frightening. You open up Pandora's box and there is all sorts of great spiritual lessons in there, and there's also terrifying. So the devil within, the angel within are both in Pandora's box. So I got the angels, but I got the devils as well. And I struggled and fought for my life for months and months once this awakening happened.
So was that a real experience in the world, or was it going on as a part of a journey, in a journey?
It was a 100% real experience like you and I sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
People go, oh, was it a dreaming? Was it? No, I wish it was, but it wasn't. It was an actual reality, three-dimensional experience of evil and good every night before bed coming. And I was warned about this from the clairvoyant. She gave me a warning that the day with no light was coming, but the day with no light also had its benefits because it was part of a spiritual awakening. But the benefits that came out of it after it happened, I was a faith healer, never advertised, no business cards. I did miraculous healing for over a year, and I do mean miraculous. I don't mean, I run a little bit of energy. And I had awakenings, the dancing dots. The dancing dots is the beginning of the great awakening. People awaken psychologically, but I'm talking about the great awakening is when you begin to see the dancing dots, which is the hereafter, the afterlife, the astral plane, whatever people want to call it. There's so many terminologies.
The other side
and names.
of the veil.
The other side.
How far you go depends on the dimension you enter into.
And you have to be fearless because at first, as I said, I could have died. I've told Anna, I spoke to Anna about this awakening in great detail, but it's called the dark night of the soul.
Yes.
There's different dark nights of the soul, but this is the big one. This is the big kahuna. And this is when you open the door to the paranormal world, and it's full of good and bad. It's not just all angel, or it's not all angel dust. And I got lots of devils and demons and everything coming up there as well. But I came out the other side a healer, a teacher, and a much better person. And 10,000 books could not have prepared me for that jump into the unknown. And that's why, as a shaman, I speak of first-hand being there, not I read a whole bunch of books and I'm just going to give you some cozy little words.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Anna, twin flames, are you?
Yes.
Tell me more.
Tracking back. I'm a wilderness person, so tracking is important. Also in healing, right? At a certain point in my life when I decided to choose life instead of flirting with death all the time, I got to a certain level of healing where I wasn't only concerned with my pain. And I realized that I had this impatience going on whenever people talked about love, because I didn't really know what it was.
Mm.
I had no real experience of it. And I decided to start to track and hunt, what is love? What is it? And is it something worth having? And one of the conclusions that I came to, because at first I just thought, is this just romantic nonsense? Is this just another delusion of humanity? And one of the conclusions I came to is that maybe there is actually something there, but I don't have the neuroreceptors for it. So I went into my failures about that. Don't have it. And then I decided I was going to grow new neuroreceptors so I could give and receive love. And that's what I did.
Mm.
But I had to do it through relationship. And in the animal people, I could give much more freely. With the human people, I had all these hoops that I had to jump through. So where the first place that I began to feel love for humans was teaching them yoga. But the hoops, they had to be in class. They had to do what I said. And then once we were done with class and I walked out of the room, I wanted to have nothing to do with them. So it was a very conditional love, but that was the best I could do at the time. So I had to grow to learn how to become a better lover. And each relationship, whether it's a friendship or a student relationship or the relationships I had with my deeply injured warriors or the people that I helped guide into death when they were irrevocably on that path, each one of those taught me a different way of loving. So fast forwarding through many different experiences of love to having the courage to sit down with my medicine pipe in a ceremony and do prayers. And I was doing prayers about a number of different things. I was at a changing point, and I was about to go to Australia for the first time. And it was like a moment of truth, because I was hiding what I really deeply desired even right then, which was, okay, sacred ones, here's my prayers for real. I have prayers for a life partner, my mate, but he has to have, and I began with my list, he has to have his own spiritual connection, his own passions, reverence for nature, reverence for the indigenous people and connection to them, knowledge of yoga, respect for me, a number of things that were missing in previous relationships. And I loaded up my pipe and I smoked it and sent the smoke out. And then it was very quiet, and then it got absolutely silent, which is very strange in the wilderness because there's always sound. So when there is silences, that's an alert. And then I heard a coyote howling. It's like, okay, coyote. And all of this is signals from the Great Spirit. And then I heard a train. It's like a train. There isn't any trains in this territory. I know this territory very well. I'd sat there for many years doing ceremony. It's like, okay, coyote, train. All right, I'll take those and I'll ponder, what's that mean? And I finished the ceremony, but I also had this feeling inside that I had put out like these strands and tendrils of a web, and they were sailing and almost to connect. And then a few days later, I woke up, and it was right on my birthday, so it was December 11th, and I heard, love is coming. I heard a voice say that to me, love is coming. I was like, and then it was in February that I went to Australia. There's a few things in that prayer. One was to be able to connect to the Aboriginal people when I went to Australia in a ceremonial way, even though I knew I was going to the city and that's a tough place to find Indigenous people. The other thing that I really put into that whole prayer was to be able to go to Uluru, commonly known as Ayers Rock, because I'd been dreaming about that beautiful red multicolored rock in the red soil desert ever since I can remember having my first dreams. And
you
I
know
needed,
it's Smita, Uluru?
I've heard of it. I've not been there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to touch it. So that was the three components of my prayers, was to finally get naked in my prayers about this deep, deep spiritual craving and desire for a partner that I knew together we could go into the great unknown in ways that I couldn't conceive of alone.
Yeah. So my part of the story is that I divorced from my partner, paid out a hefty sum to become free. A couple of years had passed and my Egyptian psychic said, your twin flame is overseas, but you will meet her. And I just thought, oh, yeah, maybe it's just new age nonsense. Could be, the skeptic inside. But I kind of believed her. Then at my yoga studio in Sydney, Body, Mind, Life, the owner came up and said, Jose, we have a teacher called Anna Forrest coming to Australia. Can you give her an Aboriginal ceremony? And to be truthful, I didn't know who Anna Forrest was. Just a few weeks earlier, Sienna Sherman, another popular American teacher, asked for my brother and I to come in and do a little shamanic didgeridoo healing on Sienna Sherman. So I thought, maybe I can make a living out of this, with American teachers. And anyway, soon as they mentioned Anna's connection to Native Americans, I said, okay, we are going to do it. So fast track, because I know we're short on time, the day came of Anna's book launch and workshops at Body, Mind, Life. Funny enough, we all got into the lift together, her two assistants, and myself. And we looked at each other, the three of us, and actually the four of us, three assistants. And I looked at Anna and I said, I think that's Anna Forrest. Are you Anna Forrest? And she said, sometimes. I thought, smart ass, eh? Smart ass. And then they said, who are you? And I said, you'll find out. Because I knew I was doing a ceremony for her. So anyway, she was in the room to 70 teachers, 70 Sydney teachers, talking about her book. And then me and the guys came up in full body paint and regalia. And then we started playing the didgeridoo down the hall, making a racket while she was talking. And they didn't know what the hell was going on. And anyway, the manager warned Anna that there was going to be some sort of floor show or something for her. And she's going, what, a floor show? But anyway, we just barged in and I said, Anna Forrest, please come in. And then the assistants, Anna's assistants, looked at me, oh, there's that rude man that was in the lift. And anyway, she got up and we did a spiritual baptism dance, and we also did a circle dance of calling in the good spirits, and we've actually got that on video. Someone had their cell phone out at the time and videoed the night that Anna and I met. And then at the end of it, I said, welcome to Australia, Anna. And then just a couple of days later, we got together. Just like that. There was no big courtships or anything, just straight away.
Straight back.
It
And
was a
isn't that true of, what exactly are twin flames?
Twin flames are two, it's one soul, but it's two bodies. And there is an understanding that doesn't need any words. We don't need to entertain one another. We just do what we have to do. Virtually no fighting, no quarreling. Just, it's a waste of energy. And it's two people that can operate in one spirit.
Mm. And Anna, what were the sparks of recognition particularly? Like, how did you recognize Jose when you met as being your other half, as it were, or being one with you without being a half of anything.
Well, when we met in the elevator, I was like very focused on my strategy because I was going to do a book reading, so I didn't even have my yoga poses to open people up. I had to like get my energy and my words together, so I was like focused on my strategy. And I was like talking to myself like, you don't have time for some pretty man, and you just can't deal with this. And then when Phil, who is the owner of the yoga center, said, "No, wait, don't start yet at the book reading because we have a something or another, a dance or something." And I just thought, what, like a warm-up band? I'm on a time schedule here, man. And I just pulled over to the wall, and then I heard the noise that Jose described, which was the clapsticks and the didgeridoo, which I didn't know what it was. And it was just like, what? And then they came in the room, and I was absolutely stunned. And the reason why I was stunned is what was going on in my mind was, oh my fucking gods, this is my ceremony. And I heard the sacred ones laughing as clearly as I heard the didgeridoo. And I didn't know why they were laughing, but the reason why they were laughing is because everything I asked for had just walked in the room. Everything.
And you knew that in the moment?
I knew that the ceremony was being answered right then.
The Aboriginal people.
There was the Aboriginal people doing a ceremony. That was part of my request ceremony. I had asked for my soulmate or twin flame. I didn't use those words. I asked for his life partner to walk through the mysteries and to love. And I had also asked for this connection to Uluru, and later that year, together, we went and did a pilgrimage to Uluru and had a series of amazing magical
We were the only
things.
ones at Uluru at night time, and it was spooky. There was a shooting star across the sky. The rock was actually singing. There was a vibration on the rock. Now, a lot of people that don't know what Uluru is, the Aboriginal story is that Uluru was once the human race. The human race's consciousness, we didn't just fall into body straight away. We had to spend millions of years as consciousness in rock, then consciousness in plant, water. So there was a whole evolution of consciousness. Everything is conscious, the plant, the rock, and then we finally became humans. So Uluru is the birth of the human race as consciousness.
Now I need to bring in my ceremony, my pipe ceremony, there was a coyote that howled at the completion of it. And as we were in the territory of the Uluru, we were still in the daylight, and we got to a place that was literally a crossroads, two roads crossing. And Jose stopped and he said, "I don't know where to go. It's been 8 years since I've been here." And so it's like, well, I don't know where to go. I've never been here. And then we saw a dingo, which is like the Australian version of a coyote, yeah? And I just opened the window and looked at this wild, wild, beautiful being and started to talk to it in what I could imagine that would understand. And then it started to talk back. But dingo language is very different than coyote. I know how to speak coyote. So I was listening. I was in Dingo Language 101. I was listening and saying back to it what it was saying to us. We were having this whole conversation at the crossroads. And then another car came up, and this guy saw the dingo and jumped out, and the dingo went after him and making this horrible barking, growling noise.
Spooky.
Like really turned into a vicious, frightening animal.
Like a wolf.
And he jumped in his car and took off. And the dingo came back over to the car, and we resumed our conversation. And then it trotted out in front of the car and looked over its shoulder and flicked its tail. And I said, "Jose, just follow the dog."
Yeah.
And it led us to where we needed to go to get to Uluru.
Yeah.
Amazing.
There'd been some scary stories of Uluru. Azaria Chamberlain, the baby that was eaten by a dingo at Uluru. I think it became a very famous movie with Meryl Streep called Evil Angels.
Mm.
But every tourist who comes to Uluru thinks about the dingo that ate the baby. So Anna and I were out in the wilderness with wild dogs and shooting stars. And it was kind of dangerous what we did, but there was the third part of the ceremony. We touched the rock.
And the dingo, Australia's coyote, was our guide.
And the indigenous people, which Anna ended up touring with us. Like I said, you must come on a tour with us. Like we're always doing yoga tours. But when we got the Olympic Games in 2016 in Brazil, Anna came on tour with us.
What was it you recognized in Anna? What was it that actually, as you had, like, you knew she's the one?
There was just sort of like when we were together, there was no pressure, it was just a relaxation I had not known before, because all my previous partners wanted entertainment or this, or, I had to always put on a show or do something for them. They always needed stimulation. Anna was cool. Like, there was no expectations, and there was just such a relaxation about being with her.
But there's also a completion that I didn't know was incomplete. I didn't know, because when our souls merged, that's the only way I can really talk about it. But I also got to say...
But so did our work.
Yes.
Our work merged as well.
I'm interested in hearing what happened in the external world. When the two of you, because when twin flames come together, that's not like an ordinary occurrence. There's an energetic thing that happens. Share what happened when you met. Like, what happened around you? Like electrics or what happened?
Well, electrics, nothing ever worked. I'd be on the phone all day with the computers. But one of the biggest things that we have to come across when you get together is jealousy.
Yes.
So all Anna's previous people and friends and everything had an automatic dislike for me. When twin flames get together, the dark forces will do anything they can to stop that, because twin flames work on a global level. So our work begun, Forrest Yoga begun changing. I took over the leadership and management of Forrest Yoga, and we came up against huge obstacles and huge hatred. Like, we had social media attacks, people wanting us dead.
Wow.
And really strange resistance. Like, one woman said, well, Anna's become a vegan, so I don't trust her. Wow. Okay.
Well, I guess if you're coming from those places where, that's so alien. It's like an alien concept,
there was all that electrics not working and things breaking down all the time. But the biggest resistance came from our inner circle of friends who didn't want the relationship to go ahead. And the hatred that we had to endure was on another level.
And yet there is more magical things happening, like the thing with the dingo. The dingo coming and guiding us at Uluru.
The eagles.
There was like the shooting star.
And what about the connection? Did you
were,
have this sense of being gotten? Like, she gets me, he gets me. Like, you didn't have to explain yourself to each other.
You don't even need to talk to each other. You know what I mean? Like, instead of like explaining a concept in great detail, it's just there's just an ease about everything.
An ease about it. That's how I would put it.
But we also spot each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The animals have been the most incredible, especially the eagles in Australia. Like, giant sea eagles are circling us for hours on end, and two eagles dancing on top of one another. I've never seen these things.
Amazing.
And another time, an eagle virtually almost came straight into our car, like while we were driving. And so it's the animals that show us that the animals are the messengers of the great Wakan Skan.
And there's also a bit of a proving, like where we each had to have our own layers of our past relationship conditioning come in and take it down. Thank you, Yelly Yelly. The snake teachings take that layer off because it's not true here, and not to impose the past on this relationship. But
retrain each other, right?
Yeah.
Almost retrain each other in the trustworthiness.
Yeah.
And I remember one time we went to a koala park, and one of my main medicine animals is tiger, like my breathing teacher, right? And so at the koala park was a Siberian tiger.
I couldn't believe it.
And I went right up to this fella, and he came right up to the fence, and we started to talk. And part of that, I also felt like Jose needed to see that I have this connection.
Yeah.
He needed to see that
Because
it
it's so
was
sacred
for real.
and special for you.
Yes.
So you take him into your world, and he takes you into his world, and then there's this coming together, or this acceptance, and there's also this recognition, is what I'm hearing. And from my own experience, I feel like that I'm looking for commonality in twin flames, and not that I've met many.
Yeah.
But it's something that that fascinates me.
And Anna and I are two totally different teachers, yet we're sort of the same. If we were the same, there would be no need for one of us. We are totally different
You bring
spiritual
different
teachers.
dimensions into complete, in a sense. I don't like the word completion, because I feel that in order to arrive at twin flame relationship, you have to be whole and complete in yourself to a level. But you then rise into an alchemy. The alchemy takes you to another being that you are as two in one, in a sense.
And it's an ongoing changing evolution,
Mm.
changing. Like, I feel we are very much on the cusp of change.
Mm.
It's not like, oh, okay, now we're at retirement age and we're just going to like kick back and ride the psychic waves or something. It's like, it's not that at all. We are working very powerfully, and we're riding a tsunami of energy, because something's about to happen, and we feel it, and we're
both
getting ready.
We both have the energy of 5 people. So we're unstoppable. And our enemies don't like this, because they can see it. So, I don't know what's going to stop us, but they've thrown everything. The evil forces have thrown everything at us.
Yeah.
And trust me, sometimes it got really, really diabolical, what they tried to do to us.
Imagine.
Yeah.
And we have to connect to a bigger energy than that vileness over and over again.
It's part of the test, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a part of the test. Can you do that? Because the energy is so powerful and so strong. Are you able to withstand that connection together?
And it builds new neurological pathways.
And it does. And are you willing to go there is the question. It's always, I think, when we're talking about partnership in that way, there are little tests along the way. And I'm not sure that the tests from the universe are just tests from our own higher selves, saying, are you ready? Are you truly wanting to take this on? Because it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it's also, coming to, what is your righteous edge that you keep fighting for?
Yeah.
Can you ease that out of the way and move forward together, instead of being in this diametrically opposed stance, which is old history coming up again?
What I'd like to do is, in another show, I would like to have a conversation with you both. For those people that are looking to understand how to rather create or rather approach, a relationship of that caliber. What does it take? What are the obstacles that are going to be in the way? How do you notice them? How do you overcome those? There are and what are the qualities? I'd like to go a little bit more into depth in this conversation of twin flames with you. We'll do that another time.
Yeah.
And for today, thank you for joining me. And I'm just so honored to have this conversation with 2 real twin flames.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like love changes everything.
Yeah. Love changes everything.
And I mean that for real. I'm not saying this in some
cliche.
Yeah. Well, love is a big word. I don't think we have the totality of love, but we certainly have a bigger perspective than the average person, because love is just a gigantic word.
Yeah.
But we have a pretty good grip of it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I feel really blessed to have both of you here and to have this conversation with you. I think it's a really extraordinary conversation to have with anybody. Thank you for joining me, and we'll speak again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.